Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March Show Low Unified School District Board meeting. Thank you all for being here, and thank our state champions over here for being here and all your parents. Thank you very much. Tonight, our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be led by John and our invocation by Joy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you want me? Our Father in heaven, we're grateful unto Thee for the many blessings Thou hast given us. We're grateful to be here this night under these favorable circumstances. And we pray that the things which are said and done here will be acceptable unto Thee and to the community and to the students and all who are teachers and all who are concerned. We pray that we'll ever be mindful of Thee and have Thy Spirit to direct us and help us. We acknowledge our weaknesses. We ask Thee to bless the various opinions and the things which are going forth. We'll be able to put them together in a way which will be understandable and where they'll be compatible with Thy Spirit. And we say this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Item 1.2.
You need to approve the agenda.
Oh, sorry. First, we need an approval agenda.
I'll motion we approve the agenda.
Second the motion.
I have a first and a second for the approval agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.2, student highlights, junior high school wrestling team. I'm assuming this is going to be led by Miss Megan.
Yes, indeed. All righty. So, well, I'd like to invite the coaches up, and we would like to honor and award and recognize our state champions. This is yet another state champion. They're also champions. So you guys come up front.
Does she need the list? Acknowledge.
Got the list?
Excellent students. This
And they,
award.
will we be able to reach them, or should we go down to them? Do we have a list of names? Can we, Coach, can you come up and read their names maybe so it can be heard? Wait. Can we reach you? Can you give us your name and I'll say it out loud? Brett? Oh, you can do it, Coach? All right, do that
For
for
our
me.
63-pound, we had Breck Williams.
Thank you.
68 pounds was Reggie Howe.
Hi, Reggie.
73 pounds was Colton Yeager.
Hi, Colton.
We had 78 pounds was Andy Wilhelm.
I think I have Andy's little brother in my
Pounds is
class.
Tanner Phillips. 88 pounds is Ty Applegate.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Our 93-pound was Rex McCrill.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ones that weren't here tonight, Craig DeWitt, and then Carter Long,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
F. We had Connor Schwager at 118s. 125 is Kean Cantor. 133s is Ridge Lee.
Stand up and
142s is Logan Mills. Then we had Jake Yeager, who's sick tonight, at 154s. Anthony Avila was 167
Congratulations again,
pounds.
Tony. Congratulations.
Troy
Coach.
Delatorre was it 180, and Mitch Palomby would have been our heavyweight. Where's our heavyweight?
There, here, Coach.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you.
Go upstairs and get a good picture of you.
Appreciate it. Stay standing until they take the picture.
Do you want-
No, I should sit
So, does she want us in the picture or not in the picture?
down. I'm the last guy who needs to be in the picture.
Smile, guys. Yeah, hey.
Great job.
Congratulations. All our parents get as many, stay up there as long as you need to, so all the parents can get as many pictures as they need to. I see a couple cameras still going. Parents, are we good?
I think some of the parents, honestly, it's been awesome. We've had
Move over the mic so I can hear you on camera. Sorry.
So, we had a great season again. It was another undefeated season. The community is just fabulous. They've rolled out the red carpet for us. We were honored at the city council meeting last month. There was a conflict with getting on the board last month, so we weren't able to make it last month here, but the County Board of Supervisors honored us. And then last night, Chaz DeWitt and, or Chaz Hatch, I'm sorry, Chaz Hatch and Hatch Toyota honored us with a steak dinner out of Torion, hosted in our honor. So, yeah, the red carpet's been rolled out, and it's been an awesome experience for these boys. So,
Fantastic.
5th consecutive year as a White Mountain League champs, so it was a great year.
And isn't this your third state championship? I heard that.
The 3rd state championship in 4 years.
And
So
isn't that,
we had a break in there where we were in the running
record?
we were in the running for the other one, and one of our boys had in his quarterfinal match, he broke his arm.
but I looked that up, and I'm pretty sure that 3 state championships for junior high is a state record.
We're the first team to have won 3 at this one.
To have ever done that, and I think that deserves another round of applause. I'm pretty sure. Well, I can tell you that as a school board, we are super fantastically proud of you, and just keep it up, coaches. You're obviously doing something right, and that goes on to the high school from there, and these boys are getting great coaching from you, and we're honored and proud to have you represent Show Low Junior High and the Show Low community. So thank you for all you do.
Hopefully with the move that we're making with working with the city and getting the new room, hopefully it'll expand and we can continue to build and have the program continue to build on through. So
That's fantastic.
it's been a good year.
We're super proud, and we're super proud of you coaches and your boys, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Coach, I'm curious, I know you won as a team, but I'm curious, individual weight class champions.
So we had 6 placers at state. We had, let me remember. So Colton Yeager took 3rd place at 73 pounds. Tanner Fellows took 3rd place at 83 pounds. Ty Applegate took 5th place at 88 pounds. Rex McCrill took 2nd place at 93 pounds. Carter Long took 5th place at 104 pounds. And Connor Schwaggart won state championship at 118 pounds.
That's fantastic.
So
That
it
is
was a
just-
great year.
That is fantastic.
So, and we had,
Congratulations.
in the White Mountain League side, we had 5 White Mountain League champions. And then we had the 6 at state. So,
I need that back.
all good year. So, all right.
Congratulations,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
You're awesome.
Keep it up. All right, item 1.3, discussion of Proposition 123. Mayor Darrell Seymour.
Good evening, board and staff. It's great to be with you tonight. It's kind of different on the other side of the table tonight, but that's great. Proposition 123 is something that's very important to the schools in the community. It's a vote that will take place on May 17th. Along with Proposition 123, there's also another proposition, which is Proposition 124, which pertains to the retirement fund for police officers. So you have the schools and you have the police officers that will be held to an election this May 17th. So it's kind of an odd date. It's an odd time, but we need to be present. We need to get out and have our voices heard. Some of the things is what Proposition 123 does is it provides $3.5 billion to the school system over the next 10 years. Back in the year 2000, Prop 301, which was approved, which was to help with teachers and education and to be able to add so much every year to the fund out of the general fund for inflation. It was approved by the voters, but it was never paid by the state. And so whether or not this is a makeup or it's a way to negotiate and get everything, done, there's no proof that anybody would have awarded any back pay or anything to the schools. So going forward, this is strictly coming out of the State Land Trust Fund, which was put in place over 100 years ago, strictly for a fund to raise money, to have money for education and other beneficiaries. But the sole heart of it is really the purpose is education. There's a lot of people that will say, we don't want to use those monies up and will possibly deplete that fund so that our future people will have to pay for it. It's an interesting controversy when you talk about it. Governor Ducey is in favor of this. He proposed that he would lower the taxes for the citizens of Arizona, but also he left the state treasurer. The new state treasurer, Mr. DeWitt, is opposed to this because he sees the future that it may be a tax coming out to our future generations. But when we look at it and we go through the different proposals of what it does, it raised the per pupil funding to $3,600 a year. It is just not the public schools, it also would allow that for the charter schools as well. It's something that we have to look at where our children are at and where the education of the state of Arizona lies. Right now, we're not in first place. We'd like to be in first place, but we're not in first place as a country. So I think education is something that's important. We look at it as a city of Show Low, that it's very important that we have the very best school possible within our community. When people look at coming into a community, they say what the next thing they look at is how are the schools and what are they doing? What can we have? So the stronger we can have our schools, the better. So it's one of those things that the League of Cities has got behind. I'm a member of the executive committee board of the League of Cities, 94 cities and towns in the state of Arizona. They support Proposition 123. They feel that the funds will still be there. The funds, it's a very lucrative fund. Right now, there's a little over $5 billion to $6 billion in that. And so taking this $3.5 billion, we'll be using just some of the interest as it grows. And that fund will still be larger at the end of 10 years than it is today. So rather than just sit and let it become larger and larger, the idea is let's put some of that money back to where we need it. And what it was set up for is for education. And so that's kind of the scope of it. It's whether you as a school, what you can do as teachers and citizens to get out and get behind this Proposition 123 and make it heard and make it part of our community. Because there comes a point in time where we have to realize our teachers sacrifice a lot for their students. You know, you had the wrestling team here. Those guys certainly aren't paid very much to be coaches, but it's what they learn in the outside of academics as well. But I still feel we got to hold our standards of our academics to the best we can. You guys are in competition to hire the best teachers, to hire the best people around. We have the best students, so we have to have the best teachers, and we need to have the best facilities. You know, we appreciate our partnership that we have with the school and with the city of Show Low and this partnership that we have. And so we look at this as something, you know, I'm just myself. I can't take the position of the city as what they do behind this, but I myself, as Darrell Seymour, is in favor of Proposition 123. And so you have any questions or about it or anything I could answer for you?
I'm just in favor.
Okay, well, hopefully we can get something and make it better, but appreciate the opportunity of being with you tonight.
Darrell, as you hear the other big communities like the county of Maricopa, do you hear any talk from there? What are they predicting or projecting on this vote?
Well, I know Mayor Stanton from Phoenix, he's definitely in favor for it. He's in favor for, but it's not a fix-all. It's only something that can be an infusion for it. I mean, there's so much more that we have to do in the education arena. And as far as the public schools, I will tell you, there's so much more that we have to do, that you have to look at how can you benefit and improve it. You almost have to treat it like a business, because you guys are in competition with charter schools. You're in competition with what they are doing, and you have to start treating your school district like a business and compete with them to offer the very best. And so what we can do with it. But, you know, it's one of those things that's kind of flying under the radar. There's not a lot about for it, but you will see some propaganda against it, and you'll see some for it. So I just encourage us to put together what we can to move it forward.
I appreciate that you brought this forward to our board today, and that you represent, you know, a larger body within our state. And I also appreciate the fact that you brought up that this, you know, a lot of people are thinking that, you know, once this goes through, that, you know, schools won't need the additional funds. And as you said, this is just a little bit of the larger pot that schools need to even get us up, you know, away from the bottom,
Right.
you know, as a state, and definitely as our community. And we're still gonna need, you know, additional funding. We're still looking at needing, you know, a bond or an override to, you know, get us some improvement in facilities and buses and getting our teachers an increase in pay. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward. We really need we need our community behind us, and to help us get some momentum moving forward before this election, and it's coming up faster than what we think.
It is, and currently this is not a tax. I mean, there is nothing as far as a tax that does this, and you're exactly right. In the future, we still need to have overrides. We still need to have those things that we can have. Just like the city, we have to have our operating budget that we have to have approved so that it can be a greater expenditure. Home rule is very important for us, and just like it is for you guys, this is something, though, that hopefully the citizens will get behind and support, because they won't see anything at all, you know, out of theirs. It's something that's from the State Land Trust Fund. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
President, I have one more comment to the mayor. A few months ago, I get in my packet a letter from the mayor of Shoal, signed by Darrell Seymour. I want you to know I acknowledge that letter and appreciated it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
Okay.
Go Cougars.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you very much. Item 1.4, statement of clarity for previous call to the audience.
Mr. Lazardi, Dave Nicholas is completely prepared, but I think we were all running on 7 o'clock start time. I was at the Not My Child, and Beth texted me and said, "You better get down here and start." I said, "What?" So I text Dave just now. I said, "Dave, can you hurry? Is it possible that we could?"
Move this item? I'm sure that we can do that.
Because Dave, I could respond. We have studied and worked, but I would be most appreciative if we could let Dave do the report that he's prepared and do justice to that report.
And I also know that he's prepared to do that as well. So I think we have to have a motion to move that agenda item.
I so move.
I have a motion to move agenda item 1.4
Whenever they get ready.
whenever he,
About to 1.8.
Well, I don't know. He hasn't responded to that text, so
To-
I'm sure he'll be here right at the 7 o'clock hour, but
Well,
time are we looking at now? What are we-
10 till.
So let's just move it
I
to,
make the motion, we put it in when they arrive. Greg.
Your motion.
let's move it to below future agenda items for
Okay.
the current time. And if he's not here by then we'll readjust. So I have a motion. Can I have a second?
I second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second to move item 1.4 to below item 1.11. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.5, discussion and decision on the retirement date for change of Kenny Kale. I'm going to turn this over to Greg Schubert.
I've got a prepared statement I'd go ahead and just like to read, if that's all right.
That would be fine.
The Show Low Unified School District has policies and procedures with performing tasks within our district. Those have been approved by our auditors as well as the school board for Show Low Unified School District. We follow them in everything that we do. This helps us to stay in compliance and avoid any lengthy, costly legal issues. I believe in the Kenny Kale issue, we will create issues if we go back on the procedure that was followed. The letters from Mr. Kale, along with our procedures, have been reviewed by our auditors and our attorneys, and we have been found to be fair and compliant. I feel if Mr. Kale's resignation letter is changed, he will owe the district a premium for his insurance that was paid for the month of June 2015. If we paid for a premium for an employee that has been terminated, it is a gift of public funds. Gifts of public funds are illegal. This would also affect our last fiscal year, which has been closed. If we set a precedent and go back and change a decision that was made by the board in a prior year, we are creating an issue, in my opinion. So that is my statement.
Quick question. You just said for an employee that was terminated, was he terminated?
Mr. Kale resigned.
He retired, yeah, retired, resigned,
Yes.
right? Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
What's your solution?
My solution is to leave it as it is to leave the decision as it was. That is my recommendation. That is the recommendation of our attorney.
Well, then that's a pretty good suggestion, and I make a motion we follow that. Do you need a motion? Or we're just going to follow it?
We need to,
Need a decision.
we need a decision on this issue. This way we can put this issue behind us and we can continue to move forward.
Can you word the motion?
I could.
I'll motion if you'll word it.
I would use a motion of to leave the Kenneth Kale resignation retirement as is and to not have any changes to it.
That's my motion.
You wanted to change the name.
Before we do that, can I make a motion to amend his name change in our July minutes to the correct spelling?
But we would have to do that after the motion and second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to maintain the retirement as it is. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I have a second motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the amendment of our July minutes to make the name change correction from, I believe Mr. Kale's name was spelled with a K, and change that to the correct spelling, C-A-I-L.
So I have a motion to change the name so it has the correct spelling in the July minutes. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to change the name to the correct spelling. Any discussion?
Yeah, there's another place in there where it was C-A-L-I, I believe also.
So we have two changes we need to
Yeah,
make.
so that should be changed also. Obviously, that was a typo.
I have a motion to make 2-minute changes for correction of the spelling of his name. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.6, call to the audience. I have not received any. Have you, Kim?
No.
With there being no call to the audience, we can move on. Item 1.7, approval and adoption of the governing board goals. We've approved our previous goals, but we had been amiss and left off one of our goals. So we had to go back. When we were preparing our documentation for hiring our new superintendent, I noticed that we had left off the probably most important goal of all, and that is our student achievement goal. So Kim and I went back and made that correction, and we have now added that goal. So I need a motion to approve our goals with our student achievement goal on there. So can I have a motion to approve those goals?
I so move.
Have a second?
I'll second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Any opposed? You're welcome. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.8, approval of ASBA Executive Search Service Aid Agreement. We had sort of done this, but ASBA Executive Search Service Agreement was not approved by the board at the February 2nd, 2016 special meeting. There have also been some changes to the timeline since that February 2nd agreement that we had previously agreed to. So we need a motion to accept the ASB Executive Search Services Agreement with the changes to the timeline.
I make a motion for the approval of the ASBA Executive Search Service Agreement with the changes to the timeline.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to accept those service agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.9, approval of revised 2016-17 Show Low Unified School District calendar. And I'm going to turn this one over to Mr. Adams.
The NAVIT schedule
I brought
was different from the students would miss a week of their NAVIT if we stayed with the schedule of Christmas break as it was. So we're recommending that we make Christmas break start, I believe it's the 23rd, which is right before Christmas, and then we will come back a week after New Year's, which is, that date would be January the 6th, or January the 9th.
You
just push
moved
it
to the
back.
week.
We moved it a
Just
whole
pushed
week.
it back a week, right? I understand there's some serious problems in Blue Ridge for spring break with some of these issues. It's not
Correct.
aligning,
Kids are going to NAVIT classes and not being able to have spring break, and we're just,
and vice versa.
and vice versa.
Thank you. I appreciate you being on top of
Line.
this.
And at the White Mountain Superintendent's meeting, they recognized the same concern, and many of the superintendents were concerned about the same issue, so.
So are most, Farrell, are most of the schools on the mountain going to this change?
The
From what I-
Christmas-
from what I
the Christmas-
understand.
The Christmas change, yes.
Yeah, the Christmas change, yes.
I wouldn't say any more than that, but
Okay.
the Christmas
The
change,
Christmas
yes.
change, okay.
Do you have finals that week?
Oh, yeah, I was-
They would be pushed just like normal all the way up through Thursday and Friday. But they really aren't finals, they're benchmark exams now. So they'd have benchmark exams, and those run the last 2 weeks. So we'll be okay.
Can we do the benchmark exams? Can we make a policy on your part to do them like through the 21st? I would not want a student, Friday is going to be a half day anyway, and I wouldn't want a student being told, you can't take your benchmark, Friday's the 23rd.
Friday
My
would be a-
family's
it'd be a makeup day, more or
my
less.
family's going out of town kind of situation. I wouldn't want that.
Teachers have a 2-week window there, and most of those are done well before the end of that week. So, yeah.
I'd appreciate that kind of situation. So we have a change to the calendar. I need a motion to accept that change.
Also motion.
I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the changes to the 2016-17 calendar. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Parents out there, you might want to make sure that you go to the Show Low Unified School District website and get that change as soon as Mr. Adams can get that posted. I know that a lot of us plan way ahead of time, so that calendar will be on there as soon as Mr. Adams can get that posted. So make sure that you plan accordingly. Item 1.10, presentation of selected superintendent hiring committee members. We had a meeting last night, and just to remind everyone how that committee was selected was completely done anonymously. In other words, everyone who applied to be on the committee for the superintendent hiring, the names were removed off of the applications. We were given just the responses to the applications with numbers, and as board members, we selected the number of the applicant that we wanted, and then the secretary, Ms. Seals, put the names on them after the numbers were selected. And so at this time, I will read those names. So the hiring committee will look like this. Administrative-wise, it will be Kevin Hall, and, well, I guess these aren't in any order, so I'll just read them as they're given to me. They're alphabetically. It will be Kevin Hall, Diane Lara, Ben Marchant, Chuck Marsh, Caitlin O'Connell, Daryl Perkins, Daryl Seymour. I always pronounce this wrong, so forgive me ahead of time. Amy, thank you very much, John. Amy Tregaskis and Kim Waters. So I thank everyone who did apply. I also must say, though, that I was really disappointed that we didn't have more teachers apply to be on the committee. We only had a small number of teachers apply, and so it made narrowing down the process not very difficult for the teacher portion because there wasn't that many that applied. So that really was disappointing to us as board members, the amount of teachers that applied. I do want to send our appreciation for our community members that applied, for our parents that applied. I do appreciate it, and I think that we've got a good committee, and that we want to thank you now for the time that you're going to put in April to make that process move forward for all of us. So I appreciate that, and we will move forward. Item 1.11, future board agenda items.
I am curious what we have done, or if we have done. Have we answered the issue with Miss Pott and her request for us to reconsider her situation? Have we addressed that at all? I know. I'm almost certain that I asked that be put on an agenda, that we could have a meeting about that.
We can make that an agenda item.
I would like to do that. I would like that. That's another one of those things I'd like to put to bed and away. And
It was done, but
I thought we did that.
we did it last month.
I thought it was, but Kim will have to
I think
check.
it was the, as a substitute.
yeah,
but
that
I
was
thought
as a substitute, but she had given us a letter requesting that we revisit her
I will ask
situation.
Mrs. Sills and I and Mrs. Marsh if we can review that the first of the week after spring break, and we'll review through board minutes and see. For some reason, I thought this was put to rest, but
I thought it was too.
we'll have a report one way or another for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me know, please. Thank you. Was I gone from a meeting? Did I miss it? I'm trying, because I don't remember. I don't at all.
I know that we need to make an agenda item for our advisory committee. We've got advisory committee written specifications for our committee that's going to be hiring our superintendent, but for our ongoing advisory committee for this year, we have to establish written statements of what we want our advisory committee, our community committee to be doing, and we haven't done that for our upcoming year past our hiring of our superintendent. So we need to have an agenda item for written specific statements of purpose for our advisory committee. Is that a way to put it, Kim? Is that good enough?
Well, we don't have that new advisory committee set up yet.
I know, but we need to have that as an agenda item, to establish an advisory committee, establish it and establish.
Before we get the superintendent,
Yeah, we need to establish our new committee and what we want its direction to be, whether it's to look toward promoting a bond or override, or supporting us in getting communication out about Prop 123, or whatever we want it to do. We have to establish that. And yes, that can happen prior to our superintendent or in the process. Mr. Adams?
We'll put it on our administrative agenda on the 22nd, and I'll put it in right now. We'll get things discussed there.
Part of a policy that we. Kim, is there anything else that you can think of that we need to have? What's that?
We need to go to David.
Okay. And so now we'll go back then to item 1.4. Statement of clarification on call to the audience from our February 11th meeting. And I'll refer this back to Mr. Adams and our athletic advisor.
Dr. Lizardi, I should say, in the last meeting, you had made a comment that you would do some follow-up on this. And could I ask you just to make a brief statement so that they know that you did some work on this?
I will.
And maybe in reference to the administration. And then I'd like to invite Mr. Nicholas after that, if he would, to come up and state some information he's prepared to respond to this. I need to warn everybody here that that's going to be a little lengthy.
Okay.
So he has quite a presentation for us.
Okay.
And then I would also invite any board member who would like to have a email copy of what Mr. Nicholas presents, if you would just let me know after the meeting, and we'll make sure we email you a copy of that. We didn't want to, if we didn't need to print it, let's don't print it out. If we can email it to you if you'd like to have a copy of it. So if we could, would that be okay, Mrs. Lazardi, if you?
Absolutely, I sure would. As I promised, I spent an afternoon with one of our administrators and one that is a kind of behind-the-scenes kind of person. I always like to say that at the school district, there's a couple positions that go highly unrecognized. One of them is the person who pays everyone. And I think that that's a position that no one ever calls her up and says, hey, I got my pay. They only call her up when they're missing 2 cents out of their paycheck. They're like, ah, you know? And the other person is our athletic director. And being a sports person, I know how much time an athletic director puts in. Every single sporting event, any event, all of our sports, preparing the sporting events, preparing the schedules, working with AIA. And so I spent, I don't know, probably a good hour with Mr. Nicholas, someone who I respect highly, and who is an administrator, an assistant principal at the high school, puts in many, many, many hours. And I spent a lot of time with him, and he explained to me the whole situation with girls basketball. And I can see how all of the things that happened. I can understand what happened with AIA. But I will let Dave share all of those with you, and if you have any further discussion or any further misunderstanding after that, we'll make sure that it's discussed further past that point. But after my hour or so that I spent with Dave, I felt very comfortable with his answers, and I think that you will too. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Dave Nicholas, our athletic director, and let him present to you.
Thank you, Pam, for those kind words. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Dave.
Is this good enough? I don't know on this microphone how close you got to be. But all right. Well, again, I do appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and explain some of those concerns that were brought up at the last board meeting. So I prepared this and probably more or less read most of what I've got here. But if you do have some questions following it or whatever, however you normally operate that, it's fine with me there too, or we can address those later, however you'd like to do. But so again, I'd like to thank the school board and Mr. Adams and the rest of the administrators for this opportunity to take a little bit of time tonight. And it's not quite as long as Mr. Adams makes it sound to be. You know, it's gonna be
It seems long.
a little quicker than he made it out to be, but I'll try my best. So my name is David Nicholas, and I'm currently in my second year as the athletic director, assistant principal at the Shola High School. And I am part of the administrative team, as Pam pointed out, or an administrator at the high school who coordinates and oversees the athletic events and many of the other extracurricular activities. As an administrator over a variety of sports and programs, which all demand a certain amount of equity and which all vary greatly in needs, popularity, amount of participation, personnel, et cetera, I can assure the board and all the stakeholders in the community that fairness and equity in and between all the programs in our school is of our utmost concern. Almost every meeting, you know, are we fair? Are we doing what we need to be equal with everybody in the school? And there's a lot of programs. However, due to the many variables, including those I've just listed, I can understand why some programs at times may have the perception or feel like they are not supported as much as other programs. I believe that as stakeholders, that we all want the same thing for our kids and students who participate in extracurricular activities, to have a safe, challenging, rewarding experience with each program that they may choose to participate in. At Shola High School, we have a strong belief that the students who participate in extracurricular programs can become better human beings through competition, teamwork, hard work, cooperation, et cetera. As we just heard from our junior high wrestlers, that I know how much work they put into those things. All these and more things are inherent values taught within our programs, and we would naturally love to see as much participation as we possibly can. So in short, believe me when I say that our end goals are the same as the parents who would like to see more supportive environment for those who do choose to participate. With that in mind, I'm grateful to take a few minutes to address some of the concerns which were brought up in the call to the public at the last board meeting about perceived lack of support regarding our girls basketball program in particular. The factors surrounding these concerns may include, but are not limited to, the things I mentioned before, and also scheduling, the numbers of athletes participating in the programs, funding of programs, the level of commitment that athletes have to one program or another, and also and all these factors are factors that all the programs face at the high school and junior high levels. So, excuse me, I get dry mouth a little bit when I'm in front of these things for some reason.
That's okay, Dave.
But, so first of all, let me just, there were several points that were brought out. We tried to kind of go over that a time or two in visiting with Pam. We identified most of those concerns that were brought up, I think, and so I've got them in bulleted items. And again, you can have copies of these if you'd like to, but I'll just go through these one by one and kind of explain the situation with those things. There was a concern about the check stipend amount. I believe it was brought up that our boys basketball coach gets paid $400 more than the girls basketball coach. And so the answer to that is because when coaches are hired, they meet with the superintendent to be placed on one of 5 steps based on their experience level. And so that's with the case in each one of our basketball coaches. They went through that process, and they were placed on an appropriate level commensurate with their experience that they've had. So, you can get copies of those from the personnel director at the district office if anybody wants to look at that information and file the right paperwork and so forth. But it explains very clearly, and I saw the actual documentation where both coaches were hired that explained why they were hired where they're at. And not only that, but probably about the last 10 years plus, every coach in the district that's been placed on a step has been frozen on that step that they were initially placed at. So there's no pay raises year after year, so to speak, until we get unfrozen, which let's all hope that might happen someday. But so along with that, the next thing, basically there was a concern over the coaching staff and so many volunteers having to volunteer their time to coach versus being a paid assistant or something like that. So each sport receives, it used to be, each team sport got 4 coaching positions ahead and 3 assistants. And a few years ago, when the economy kind of did a downturn and everything, we cut that back to 3 paid positions. And so, with the exception of football, because of the numbers that football carries, it warrants more paid assistants, basically. But all the other team sports have 3 paid positions, and then different programs have different numbers of volunteers who are willing to help out with the programs and coaching responsibilities. So that, and which we greatly appreciate that. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without those that volunteer their time out there. And so we do appreciate their volunteer, but they are volunteers and they are board approved, and we got to go through that process. They fill out an application and fingerprints and all that so that they're okay to coach our teams and our kids. There was a issue that brought up about the basketball class, and there's again a perception out there that we had a basketball class, and in a way that was partly true. All PE classes are titled Interscholastic Athletics, and an effort was made to buy out prep hours for on-campus coaches to teach some of those classes. And there wasn't a girls basketball coach on campus last year, so we did want to make it clear that girls can still take this class. Now, in an area of growth, the class is and will be open to co-ed as a co-ed class if where needed. And yes, we could probably do a little better job in communicating that to the students and all, and particularly the girls, that, hey, you can take this if you really want to, and we can make it work as a co-ed class, or get the right kind of PE teachers in there. And Mr. Adams has a little bit more to do with that, but because it's a curricular thing. But the next, another thing that was brought up was team sponsorship banners. So in the gym, there's various different banners that are put up. I'll first talk about the team picture banners. The team picture banners, if you've been in the gym, you'll see sometimes, like girls volleyball, actually the one that started it this year, and they had the team picture of the varsity squad, and it's on a 4x8 banner or something like that, and it's posted there as you're walking to the gym. And so as the girls started that, other programs, of course, became interested, and in approaching both the girls and boys teams, the boys teams opted to do that. The girls team opted to spend their money elsewhere, because that's something we don't buy, if they would like to do that. But some programs want to do it, and other programs choose not to. But in retrospect, we could probably I could see how a parent or an attending fan might come in and say, oh, this school values the boys more than the girls, because they have, there's a banner of the boys team there, but not the girls team. So in the future, we'd probably make a lot more of an effort to if one team wants to do it, especially when they're boys and girls teams in the same gym, in the same sport, we'd make more of an effort to say, well, if this team's going to do it, whether they pay for it with their own money or not, we'd like you to do it also, so that we can, and certainly if the girls had chosen to do that, I guarantee it would have been put up in the same location. So I don't know how the word got out there that it would have to be put in at the other end of the hallway or whatever it was, but so that's kind of the story on that, and again, an area of improvement we could maybe do something a little bit better with. But in regards to the sponsor banners, as far as community group sponsoring teams in that use a gymnasium, the wrestling team has sponsors that they did a little banner program thing for this year. Those are posted in a certain area in the gym. And there's also a spot, or there could be some old banners that were up before that in the past that we just haven't got around to taking down yet. So we should probably take some of those down, because they haven't contributed to the programs in the last couple of years that I've been here anyway. So hopefully that explains a little bit on the banner situation. Donations and fundraising. Again, this is done on an individual basis per program. Both programs raised money in different ways this year and spent money in different ways. For example, the boys spent some of theirs on shelves for a home team conference room, which both teams used throughout the year. And the girls chose to spend some of their money on attire and other needed things that they need for their program. Funding from athletics basically pays for basketballs, medical equipment, other supplies, things in the gymnasium need to be fixed, new nets, stuff like that. And so, and those funds are distributed as equally as we can do with the funding that we do have. There was a comment made about officiating, and there's a number of AIA officials in our area. This number has been drastically reduced over the last couple of years because just lack of interest. AIA did raise the pay for officials about 2 years ago in an effort to try to keep more officials. But in our particular area, it's not quite so easy to get any official you want. In fact, we have a lot of the same officials doing most of our games, and those are assigned by the AIA. And I did state to one parent who was complaining about the officiating following a particular game that if we didn't have officials we may not be able to play the games, but that's both boys and girls. I mean, you can't play the game without the officials. So I would love to appeal to the community if anybody's out there and interested and has the skill set to do so, to become an AIA official and give us more options in this area to utilize.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are you telling me that the AIA schedules those people to officiate and you don't have any control over who comes and officiates?
Yeah, exactly. So we can sometimes make requests if we've had an issue with an official. We can request to our area commissioner that we need to, if there'd be possible to make a change because we got a conflict in personality or whatever it might be. But that happens very rarely. And these officials, they always show up. I think last couple of years and in the years that I coached, we never had officials not show up. And they're there, they come, they do the best job they can. And so, kudos to those officials that we do have in our area because they do a pretty good job overall. So it's a tough job to do. But yeah, they're assigned by the AIA and we have very little to say about who does what. Another issue that brought up was equity and gym time. During the season, there's no question of equity and distribution of the gym time. Schedules are made and kept for the most part, unless there's a weather issue or some other issue going on with school, that there needs to be a change made. The scheduling issue, which I'll talk about in a minute, actually allowed more use of the main high school gym, the big gym, by freshmen and JV teams in both programs this year because we had all girls there some nights and then all boys would be there. So they were able to use all teams at those schools where normally it's just a JV team and both varsity teams. But in the out of season, every effort is made on our end to provide each program with equal gym facility time. And those times vary based on different programs' needs. Some people want the gym more than others and some coaches and we use the whole school basically too. We do appreciate the junior high facilities we use a lot of times and even Nicholas Homestead Gymnasium, stuff like that. So, but we do the best we can to make that as fair as possible. We just met the other day to try to work out spring and summer facility use stuff that would make life a little easier on everybody. Again, the AIA computer scheduling, Pam alluded to this a little bit, and do I call you President, Pam, or what? How do we?
Just call me Pam,
okay.
that's perfect.
But anyway, and this is probably one of the things that kind of really illustrated or pointed out some of the differences between boys and girls basketball. I mean, the AIA scheduling, because of the way it was and basically largely based on power rankings, we were playing some teams that were from Phoenix, and we were going to Phoenix. Now, next year, this is going to be different because we're more localized, and there was just so much complaining about from all the schools, not just ours, that the travel problems and everything else associated with it. Your boys and girls teams aren't playing on the same nights and so forth. So if there wasn't a boys game going on afterwards, which there's a different attendance level at both of those things, and we're all working to try to get more support at the girls games, obviously. But when they're together, it brings the whole school, and people that come to the girls games stay to watch the boys games, and people that came to watch the JV game stay and watch the girls game, and so it just kind of compounded the issue a little bit this year because the perception was wow, the girls' games are different than the boys' games, and that was noticeable this year more so than other years. But and so that's something, again, like I mentioned, the scheduling next year will help a lot of different things, including transportation, which is a big issue for us right now, getting teams and different schools where they need to go for their trips and everything. So another issue, and I'm getting closer. Are we in the long part that Mr. Adams was talking about? Yeah. We're getting close to the end here, but the band and cheer at the games was another issue that was brought up. Our school is one of the very few and maybe the only school in the state that has a live jazz band playing at our home games. And it's a unique thing. It really is. I mean, if you go to other gyms, you don't see live jazz band there playing in intermissions and half times and stuff like that. But that adds to the energy level of our home games and whatnot. The jazz band missed more boys games this year than they did girls games. And that was only 2. And they did miss 1 girls game because of different conflicts that they had. If we do have an area of growth, it may be also in providing the cheer squad for all varsity level games, all home level varsity games, and maybe some local areas that aren't too far to travel. And this will be easier with the new scheduling format also. Also, we could help with facilitating maybe a little better communication between the Spirit Line and the girls basketball program to determine how this is to be done. So sometimes there's, with girls and girls, it's, sometimes the girls team, basketball team it's different for the girls cheering for them than, it's a little different and sometimes it might be distracting to them versus come on out and let's have all the fanfare and everything that we do for the other games. But so if we can facilitate that conversation just a little bit better in the future and come to some agreements of which home games do we need to do this at more so than others, or all home games and make it work equally, which is, and the scheduling is the way it's been tough on the band and the cheer squad to get everybody there, because you're talking about 3-4 nights a week and covering both of those things. It's tough on those kids that are in those programs to really get, on school nights, get out there every night for 2, 3, 4 hours. So,
Excuse me, Dave, can we stop the sidebar conversations because it can be heard? Sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
okay. On that note also, I mean, I have had, over the last couple of years, just even the last couple of years, I've had numerous teams, not numerous, but several teams, opposing teams that come up to me, coaches, players, and thanked me personally for the energy level that the girls' games were played at. And we had the announcing going, we had the band going, or whatever it might have been, so it was noticed by others. So sometimes I think we forget that we do have it pretty good in our area. Sometimes we like to, keep elevating as much as we can, but at the same time, but we do a lot better than some other places. And I guess is what I'm saying. So if we maybe look to the positive side of things in a lot of different areas, that, it goes a long way. And I mentioned the announcer at the games. Our announcer is fantastic, and he provides a lot of that energy. If you've been to some of our football games and basketball games, you know what I'm talking about. But he travels from Taylor to announce games for $20 each game. So when we do try to get him, it's usually when we have a girls and boys game together, and or depending on how busy the game would be or whatever. But and usually that's just the varsity only. We don't really announce the lower level games. But if there's only one home game, in an effort to save a few bucks and whatnot, I have personally announced some of those games, boys and girls alike. But all games this year had some form of announcer, and you could probably tell just by listening to me here tonight that I'm not the best announcer in the world, but I did all right, I thought. So as far as administrators at the games, and I think maybe your clarification, a lot of people, the athletic director is sometimes a background guy, and people don't realize that he is an administrator. He's an assistant principal and whatnot. But as part of my duties, I believe I believe I was in attendance at every girls' home basketball game, including senior night. However, I did miss one boys' game due to another responsibility that I had that night. Assistant Principal Ben Marchant was in attendance at many of the home contests at each level, freshman, girls, JV, varsity games, and he was there for a lot of those. And Mr. Farrell Adams was also at many of the games as well. In fact, late in the season, he attended. We had two big games going on. One, again, with the scheduling the way it was, girls were in Blue Ridge, boys were in Show Low. Mr. Adams actually went to the girls' game that night in Blue Ridge while Ben and I were at the the Shola boys game, kind of running that one. Also, just please ask to remember that administrators, especially those two guys, gentlemen, attend as many non-sporting events such as band, choir, and other performances as possible during each season as well. So there's a lot going on, and they try to get to as many things as they can, while I, as the athletic director, try to cover most of the sporting things. But I do also like to attend the band and choir things as well. They do a great job. One other final thing is in regards to a freshman team. Another thing that was done on administrative level this year, it kind of seems to have gone unnoticed, is that we kept the freshman girls team intact this year. Despite low numbers trying out, we were able to work together with the coaching staff to add a coach and find a couple more girls to try out and salvage the freshman program. So the freshman team saw a lot of growth this season progressed, which is a big plus in respects to the future of the program as a whole, and keeping the program going as best we can. So those are some of the issues and concerns I think were brought up. Again, if there's any questions on any of those things, I'd be more than happy to answer those. I'd just like to conclude by reading a couple other things. I appreciate your time again on this important issue. We do appreciate and acknowledge the hard work our girls coaching staff puts into the program, and during the season and out of the season. The girls who do choose to participate despite struggles have benefited from being part of the program and have worked extremely hard as well as gain skills outside the basketball court, which will help them in life. I'm sure we all, from the school board on down, will continue to work towards providing a safe, challenging, rewarding program for the girls and support them in turning the corner towards even greater success. On a personal note, I want to make it completely clear that if anyone out there has any questions or about our athletic programs, the role of the AIA, school procedures, etc., that our doors are always open to the high school. Administrative staff has been and will continue to be willing to speak personally with anyone who has concerns. In fact, I personally would prefer to address concerns that way instead of this way. But I do I view this communication with parents as part of my job as administrator in charge of extracurricular programs, and I want to fulfill my duties in such a way that it relieves much of the burden from our school principal, who's a much busier guy than I am. We do encourage concerned parents and athletes to first speak to their coaches, who can shed light on certain questions as well. We are lucky to have some great people who coach in our district, and they are dedicated and committed to provide quality experiences for our kids. Talk to them, and if you still have questions, come on in. We're all working together to do the best we can to provide fair, safe, and successful extracurricular experiences for the students at Shola High School. So thank you again for your time. And I'm done.
Thank you.
Dave, I've got a couple of questions for you. Clarification. The banner situation, you're telling me that everybody had the opportunity to get those banners if they so chose? The school didn't pay for those? That came out of their Booster Club funds or some other funds? And
They paid
and so
for those.
if they were there, that was because they chose to have them. If they're not there, that's because they chose not to and did something else?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. The other thing is I appreciate the fact that each bullet point that you went through at or near the end, you provided a solution or a way that we could have done better on each one of those points. I appreciate that a lot, and I would hold you to that. I would appreciate that you make that effort. I'm curious though, and I don't know if the question is better asked to Mr. Adams or to you, but what could we have done better to have avoided this altogether from our end?
Well, that's a great question. And being more proactive, obviously at these things, maybe, with this, and it's been a good experience for me to introspect a little bit and to say what can we do better so that it doesn't, this doesn't happen again. People know that we're willing to talk and answer questions, and would love to in most of those cases. And So just being out there, being more visible, talking to people at the games, talking to parents at the games, like Pam said. I mean, I'm kind of behind the scenes guy, but maybe I could be out in front a little more or, talking to people at the games and whatnot. But sometimes I do like to just sit and watch the game, but,
One more thing is Mr. Nicholas alluded to the fact that his door's always open. I think we need as a community to realize there is a chain of command in our school district. And when we jump right to the school board or the school board meeting, that we have just bypassed the whole chain of command and the ability to solve problems at the lowest level possible. And that keeps our community out of this state of contention and mixed up, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
mixing the pot. And I think if an appointment could have been set, called in, an appointment set by a group of parents, I want to meet with Mr. Nicholas, actually planned an appointment set, that is the way we solve these problems. And when we bypass that simple process and try to go to you good folks, we cause consternation in our community and in our school system. So, Mr. Nicholas, the administrators, the school board, we are all desirous to try to help every child be successful. We really desire that. But when we follow that simple chain of command, it really helps.
And even if they want to involve you in that process, Mr. Adams is always, he was there the night that I talked to Dave. I talked to Dave, and then we both went in and talked to Mr. Adams. It was a pleasant evening, pleasant conversation. And I want to add a couple things I wanted to make sure that I followed through with you, Dave, as well. I called a bunch of, since I helped with basketball for about 10 years, I called a bunch of former student basketball players who still live on this mountain, and I told them, you need to be calling AIA and get registered to be a referee. I did that for you. And actually, a few of those kids have signed up to be AIA referees, just to let you know. Because I told them, look, you're still living up here. You love basketball. Why aren't you doing this? And they were like, well, I don't know. So a few of them are going to sign up to be AIA referees for you. So I spent, I don't know, a couple afternoons Facebooking and everything else that I could with former basketball players that I still have in contact with, because I thought, you know what, they still live up here. They're still part of this community, and we need their help, and not just Show Love, but Blue Ridge, and they all have friends that played basketball at all those other places. And
You don't say that, Blue Ridge and Snowflake, dang around.
sorry, but all of us need referees. Like you said, we can't play the game without the referees. It just doesn't happen in all the sports. And so I did another step forward, and I wanted to make sure I pointed that out to you. But I appreciate the time you spend, and let me tell all of you out there too that Dave did not want to be the one to do this. He really likes to be that behind the scenes guy. But I appreciate you taking that step forward, Dave, and taking all the time to answer every single specific one and to write up. And so it's always great to respond to, but not only to respond to, but to come up with a step to make it possible so that maybe it doesn't happen next year. And I also want to respond to the AIA scheduling just a little bit, because being around it. In years past, it was scheduled so that we always had, at the main court, we always had a JV game, whether it be girl or boys, and then we had girls varsity, boys varsity, right in concession, just like that. Girls JV or boys JV, and then it was girls varsity, boys varsity. Well, when AIA changed all of that, as Dave implied, the AIA did all the scheduling and messed all of that up. So this year it became very apparent that that was not going to work. And so now it's going back, right, Dave? Isn't that how you explained it to me? It's going back so that we can have it more similar to that schedule. So hopefully next year it is more similar to that schedule, so that it is more supported in that manner. And as he said, people come to watch the JV game, they'll stay for the girls' game, stay for the boys' game, and all of the support mechanisms that are there for all of those are in place for everyone.
So if we have the cheer there for that game, they won't have to be there every night, but they'll be there for that whole night's events. And we got to remember our poor cheer girls, they have practice that night themselves.
Yeah.
They have homework that night, and now we're saying come and do a game after they've practiced for 2 to 2.5 hours now. So we have to be very mindful of our cheerleading team. They are phenomenal, but
Well, and Dave showed me on this year's schedule that there were times that there were, on this year's schedule, it would have been 4 nights that cheer and or band could have possibly been at 4 different events in 1 week. And
stay up with their studies.
And stay up with their studies. And how much can you ask
Mr. Nicholas, typically, I know for football, there's one game a week. Basketball, how many games a week?
Usually 2, and there's about 2 or 3 weeks that there's at least 3 games a week.
So we would, in essence, be asking our cheerleaders to double that, possibly even triple that. That'd be a tough thing to ask them.
On the old schedule, right? And so
Right.
hopefully we're going back to
Yeah.
a better schedule. I thank you, Dave, very much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Mr. Adams, did you want to add any more to that?
No,
Thank you.
I was going to say a point about an article on this, but I probably shouldn't. A very kind article, but one of our local papers, I won't say names, just when our boys' high school team did well at state, they printed a wonderful article that day, and I saw kids walking around our community going like the old boxer, the one that, touting that paper with their picture on the front page. I talk about selling papers.
Yeah.
And then in a more heartfelt comment, we had a recent tragedy at our school. And I really appreciate, I don't think they were touting those, but in the paper were some very heartfelt and kind articles there that were about those. My comment centers around a call to the audience issue in our last board meeting that we can't respond to. All we can do is sit and listen. We can't say anything to it. And then in our paper, there was a headline article regarding that call to the audience, and I was a little disappointed that we couldn't respond, and there wasn't a response. Tonight, after now, would be a good time for that. That's my only concern, is sometimes we are a community, and we expect community support on all fronts.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just pleading for that tonight, asking for that we have this opportunity to be fair in all aspects. Girls, boys, reporting, teaching, administrating, the whole works.
Yeah.
Be fair, be upfront, state the facts, and that's the comment. But talk about sell papers. When that positive side hits, it goes.
I'm sure there's going to be a nice picture of some wrestlers.
Some wrestlers, yeah.
Wrestlers on there.
So
Mr.
I
Adams.
just want to say thank you, especially in this past week's events, to those who've contributed and helped and
Yeah.
in all the different ways in this good community. Sholo, thank you. So.
One more, maybe just a little shout out. We did mention a little bit about the cheerleading. They won this last week, and they won first place at a state competition. And so a little shout out to them. We didn't have time to get it in on this board meeting.
They'll be at the
agenda,
April.
but,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, let's get them scheduled. Yes.
I was just going to mention, even, they don't need to be state champions for me to want to see them and congratulate them on their efforts. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter what their extracurricular activity. So I'd really like to see and talk a lot more about those positive things.
Absolutely. Me too.
Yeah, okay.
Especially cheerleading. They're a year-round sport, Those girls, they go from football all the way through till now when they're doing their championships after basketball, clear into this season, and they put in a lot of time. Anybody that says that's not a sport has never seen those girls practice.
That last performance is online if you can find it. And I've watched a lot of cheer performances. Holy smoke, you talk about quality.
Dynamite.
I think a lot of colleges would, and I'm saying that, step them up, show yours against ours. I want to see it. That was as near perfect as performance. And they had just performed at this pep assembly the week before and had a few stumbles.
Yeah.
And I was looking, and boy, that was just perfect. So shout out again.
Maybe we can
if you
get
have a chance to go see that, it's
Maybe when we get them scheduled for the next meeting, we can get a clip of it for the board meeting. We can get can we?
Yeah, we can get it up on the screen.
Yeah.
clip. That's on some Facebook. Somebody help me find that. So,
Yeah. We do that?
good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
We'll work on that report.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas.
Moving right along. Sorry that took so long, everyone. I hope everyone is satisfied with the responses from Mr. Nicholas. Item 2.1, approval of overnight and out-of-state travel. Mr. Adams.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot here.
Oh, sorry. We can
I
just,
was writing myself a note. No, okay. Well, I'm just going to report that they are all as listed, and copies there, and we would like to recommend that the out-of-state and overnight travels for the high school be approved as listed.
I make a motion for approval of overnight and out-of-state travel as listed.
Second.
I have a first and a second for approval of overnight and out-of-state travel. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.2, approval of Show Low Unified School District plan to implement the civics test and to manage data. Mrs. Clark. By the way, she's supposed to be up here now.
Yeah, keep those guys.
So you have in front of you the legislation there, ARS 15-701.01.01 rather, which outlines that beginning with next year's senior class, the graduating class of 2017 in the state of Arizona, students have to score a 60% minimum score on the naturalization test used by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services in order to graduate from high school. And so part of that legislation requires that we have our governing board adopt a policy and procedure to implement that. So what you have there is our plan to implement the test and manage the data. The long and short of it is students can begin testing in 8th grade. And we're looking at probably second semester is when the social studies teachers at the junior high feel like those students have the background to do so. So they'll start testing in 8th grade and then be given opportunities throughout their high school years to, multiple opportunities throughout their high school years to pass the test for graduation. So that just outlines for you. I know, Mrs. Lozardi, this is a special topic for you, and so I wanted you to see kind of our plan to implement that, but we're just asking that you approve our procedure tonight.
So you're saying that somewhere between 8th and 12th grade, they can take this test, pass it in 9th grade, saying then they don't have to worry about it?
Correct.
10, 11, 12, or, okay.
And if they pass it in 8th grade with 60% or better, good to go. And we have the flexibility at the local level to kind of manage students who might have a learning need where they might need some sort of assistive accommodation in order to manage the test. And we've kind of outlined that in some cases, if it was written to a student's individualized education plan, that they just attempt the test, things like that. So that of course is managed at the school level, but we'll be tracking that they've passed it. We, will be having that managed by the junior high and high school counseling departments, and then our junior high and high school social studies teachers will be administering the test in their own classrooms. And so it will be under that kind of very general testing environment the students are used to.
So our state requirement is 60% or better. We don't want to at least bump that up to 80% or better for us? Come on, I did better than that when I taught it, Becky. I know you did.
Up to you, but
I would state that the junior high and high school social studies folks have met on this more than once.
yeah,
And
I think
discussed,
4 times.
yeah, several times, and they've discussed that very concept, and,
Oh, I bet they did.
it's, yeah, probably needs to stay.
I mean, just to give you a little background on that,
It's a good starting point, yes.
we floated this exam. Our high school social studies teachers actually administered it in the fall semester just to see how we did without telling the kids hey, and I believe, I want to say that it was 40 or 60%. I can't remember now. I don't have my notes with me, but passed it.
Right.
And so we're actually going to grandfather this year's junior class. We're going to grandfather them in. So some kids have already passed it.
Fantastic. I'm sure they did. Yeah,
Graduation.
yeah. All right,
So I will motion that we approve this plan about the civics test and manage the data therein.
I'll second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the plan to implement the civics test and to manage the data. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.3, approval of White WMI High School Credit Recovery Summer School Program.
It is recommended that we do our annual summer school. This is not, we don't want to confuse this with Title I credit or Title I summer school.
Okay.
The Title I summer school is free to kids who have failed English or math at the junior high and the high school, and they go through 16 days of that. This is credit recovery, and it costs $85 a half credit. It's online at home, or they can sit in our lab with a person there who is paid their daily rate to run that. And that's what this is. It runs for 16 days in June and 16 days in July. And there's a flyer that kind of describes that.
I so move.
I'll second the motion.
So a motion and a second to approve the WMI High School Credit Recovery Summer School Program. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.4, approval of fiscal year 2016-17 district positions.
I guess this is the time of year for long discussions. It's not necessarily long, but probably need to go over some background. We could just approve it as listed, but do you want me to go through some of that a bit with you to answer any questions? This is to propose moving from music and PE at Whipple Ranch, and we've already kind of made a proposal for Linden, but that would end in May, but that's going to now push that on for next year. It's going to move these positions from classified to certified positions. The Nicholas Ranch is going to run classified for one more year, and Mr. Hall has justified that with the administrative team, and we support him in that justification. But and then when the time comes, we may have to look at moving that over. The point to certified.
Okay.
At Nicholas Homestead. But right now, I need to point out the supporting documents that you have in front of you indicate that this is all happening at no cost to the district. We're able to close a position here, change the name of a position here, take the money that is paid for the classified positions, and we're close, aren't we, Greg? We're probably not going to hit it right on the head, but we're going to be close to not much money out of pocket to do this. And when I say close, if it cost us more than $5,000 to $10,000, I would be surprised. I pushed the numbers. I don't think it will either. I know it's a little short because I've pushed them several times saying, how does it, it's a little bit short, but not much.
And this is also for orchestra, the
This
junior
is-
high, right? Okay.
This keeps orchestra at the junior high, it keeps, and it gets the certified people with our children. So, you know, you've got to commend those who do this as a classified person on a parapro salary, running, teaching a class, disciplining, not having been trained. So we're not faulting one bit, you know, what we've done. It's just, we feel if we can have a certified person in there, not lose money, that should be our direction.
Absolutely.
It will bless our district, our community. These decisions will help us in the long run.
Yeah, and the stability for the kids. We've seen
It
so
will.
much turnover.
And you know, the other problem is a teacher is sending those kids in the elementary grades to an activity, and they expect that kid to come back trained just like they left the classroom by a qualified teacher.
Right.
And I'd like to say, I'm not saying anything negative at all, but there's a difference when they go from one qualified teacher to another qualified teacher in return. And that's the point. That's what we'd like to see, is that consistency maintained in our district. So
I so move.
I second the motion.
So I have a first and a second on the district positions, approval of the 16-17 district positions. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of high school STEM class proposal.
this should have been in our handbook, but we didn't know we wanted it. Mr. Hanchett goes to a STEM conference and comes back and says, told me my students want to have a 0-hour class. He will not be paid a stipend to do this. He's doing this much like a club. The children will receive credit. It's just going to be added to our course description book, and it's just here for approval to add in the course description book.
Okay. I make a motion for approval of high school STEM class to be added to the high school handbook.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the high school STEM class proposal. Do I have any further discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say that I've had opportunity to visit with Mr. Hanchett, spend a little bit of time in his class, and we walked out and took a look at the project, and it is really cool. I wish I had the time to be part of the club.
Mr. Hanchett is here this evening. We thank him for being here, and he does have a great STEM program, and they're going to have fish in that program.
I know.
That's why the fishing boat's parked right next to it. The fishing club's boat's parked right.
I was hoping to sit there and cast.
No,
but-
it's a great, and I think they have a work project coming up here in April. They have a couple of projects coming up here at the end of March, and so they're proceeding with their STEM goals.
It is really neat.
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, Mr. Hanchett, we have to thank you for volunteering your time and hours to do this with no stipend, and we have a motion and a second to approve.
Just shows the heart of educators. They're constantly
Absolutely.
doing that. He's not the
Yeah.
only one. They do it at the elementary level. They're all doing it.
Always, 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 always. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I did want to mention the kids do get credit for this. They get a elective credit, and I failed to say that.
Fantastic. Approval to change Odyssey classified parapro position at the high school to 40 hours per week. Beth Marsh.
Just to give a little background on this position, our Odyssey Classroom is kind of an alternative classroom where the students participate in online curriculum. And this is somewhat of a blended program with some general education students, some special ed students. This originally started as a certified position, I believe my first year, then trying to be very effective with our special ed positions. We changed it to a classified position because the person in there is not doing the instruction. The instruction comes from the computer lessons. But in reviewing our programs and already planning for next year, we realized that as we had changed this, it's at 35 hours a week. It needs to be a 40-hour-a-week position. This person does, similar to our keyboarding, our classified teachers, teachers that we had. They not only have to manage the students in the classroom, they also have to review the data. They reassign tests and different things for the students. So there is a fair amount of planning and organizational work that goes with this. So the funding would come, this position is already paid out of my federal flow-through dollars. So that additional funding, which I believe is about $2,000, would come out of that same pot of money.
Okay.
So all motion we approve.
I second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the change in Odyssey classified parapro position at the high school to 40 hours per week. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Personnel matters, item 3.1, approval of termination, resignations, and retirements. This section always saddens me, but I will turn this over to Greg Schubert.
So before you tonight, we have brought you the list of resignations, the return to work employees from ESI, and our retirements for your approvals.
I so move.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second, and there are a lot of names on here and a lot of teachers that have worked at the district and employees for a long time. And as I said, it always saddens me when I see names that I remember from when I was teaching.
No, I was adding it up, and it was well over 200 years of teaching between the 6 teachers that are
Wow.
retiring.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of dedicated staff.
A lot. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.2, approval of new hires and transfers. Greg?
Before you is a list of 3 names for new hires. One is a high school math teacher for the upcoming school year.
Oh, fantastic.
I make a motion for approval of new hires and transfers.
Any second?
These, except for the one, these are starting now to the
Yes.
end of the year, end of the school year, correct? And then we'll reapprove them if they want to come back for next year, correct? Is that right? Okay.
When we do work agreements, yes.
Right, okay. So we get a motion in a second?
Yep.
We have a motion.
I'll second them.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on approval of new hires and transfers? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.3, approvals of substitutes. Greg?
Before you is a list of 2 substitutes for your approval.
I'll motion we accept the approval of these substitutes.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2 names for substitute, 1 certified, 1 classified. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.4, approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers. Mr. Schubert.
Before you are 6 stipends and 1 volunteer for the upcoming.
I make a motion for approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers as listed.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second to accept stipends, volunteers, and event workers. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.5, approval of contract revisions.
Before you are 2 names from food service that we are moving due to some issues within the food service department where we need to adjust our contracts to add more hours to them. So we're just bringing these two for your approval.
I so move.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve contract revisions. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of school principal for Whipple Ranch Elementary. Mr. Schubert.
Well, I've kind of blown through the first 5, so I will give this one just a little bit of time.
Okay.
Tonight, we bring before you Miss Suzanne Yaramillo
Army.
as the new principal for Whipple Ranch Elementary.
You here? Oh,
And we bring this to you tonight for your approvals.
I make a motion for the approval of school principal for Whipple Ranch Elementary. And welcome Ms. Susan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Yaramillo.
You here tonight?
Mrs. J.
No, she's not here tonight.
Mrs. J.
Mrs. J.
I'll have to practice that, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah.
Did any of us sit on a hiring board?
Miss Marsh.
Brian.
Didn't Brian?
Oh, did
Did Brian? I
Brian?
was going to say Brian didn't, he's not here.
Oh, okay. Please. Thank you.
Susie, as she goes by, will join us from the Pendergast District. She and her
Where's that?
husband,
Yeah, what-
West
like
Phoenix.
Maryvale,
Maryvale, okay,
yeah.
okay.
She and her husband are actually Blue Ridge graduates and are wanting to come back to the air. I know, it's okay. Whoa, wait a minute. Wanting to come back to the area. She has about 20 years in the Pendergast District. 14 of those have been as administration. She's currently the principal for about the last 10 years in a K-8 elementary school. Comes to us highly recommended, lots of experience, very data-driven.
Wonderful.
Good. Cool.
So we're excited to have her.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much. So I have a motion
And a second.
and a second. So I have a motion and a second for the approval of school principal Susie Jaramillo for Whipple Ranch Elementary. We are honored to have someone with that experience coming to our district. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.1, approval of final viewing and adoption of policies. Okay, we're requesting approval of, for final viewing and adoption of the following policies. One of these policies we are going to be tabling, and that is policy number 435, GBEF, George Bravo Echo Foxtrot. We will be tabling that policy.
You need a motion and a second
So-
to table that.
Yes, I need a motion and a
I make a
second.
motion to table policy 435 GBEF.
I so second then.
I have a motion and a second to table policy 435 GBEF. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. For the remaining policies, we need a final adoption. So I need a motion for the final adoption of the policy numbers 473 and 510.
I make a motion for the approval of final viewing and adoption of the policies as listed, with the exception of policy 435 GBEF.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the final viewing and adoption of the remaining policies. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of first viewing. We're requesting the first viewing of a numerous list of policies. And I think we were given all of those. Yes, so we need to make sure that we take some time to review those. One of them we have to choose options for between now and the next meeting as well.
I make a motion for the approval of first viewings of the policies as listed.
Second.
So I have a first And a second for the first viewing of the listed policies. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.1. Did I miss one? Oh, goodness, sorry. Approval of first viewing. We're requesting the first viewing of policy number GCCA, professional support staff general leave undifferentiated.
I'll motion we approve the first viewing.
I'll second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second for first viewing of policy GCCA. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.4, approval of, to rescind policy advisories 478 and 480.
I make a motion for the approval to rescind policy advisories as listed.
I have a question about this.
Okay.
Are our dates right there? You're talking about we approved and adopted in February 16.
Last
They
time.
now need to be rescinded as it was determined that a more recent version was approved and adopted on December 12, 13.
Yes, during our process of trying to make sure our policy advisories were up to date, we had brought to you policy advisories that we had the district already approved a newer version of. So what we are looking for tonight is these older versions to just rescind those completely
Okay,
and go with the versions that we have that are more current.
okay, second.
So I have a first and a second to rescind an older version of a policy, and any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.1, review of audit financial statement of fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015. Mr. Schubert.
Well, since we've been here for such a short period of time tonight, I thought I'd go over our audits, and it's only 3 books long, so it shouldn't be, too long. I just want to turn your attention to the brown covered book. Nope. Oh, brown. There you go. This book here is what the actual audit is based off of. This is the entire compliance questionnaire. And in the back, it tells you the areas where we did not do so well on the audit. Just to give you some number purposes, if you have less than 35 audit findings, you've had a really good audit, okay?
We did great.
This audit has 27 audit findings. So we had a really good audit. Some things that I wanted to point out to you, if you'll open to Appendix A, page 1 of 5. It looks like this without the green tabs.
Got it. In the back.
105.
It's after page 27 of 27.
Fourth page from the back.
Oh, here, I got it.
You got it there? I just wanted to point out a couple of the bullet points and tell you, just to kind of give you some backgrounds on those. Point number 3, the district is required to make a deposit in a timely manner. That's what the USFR says. And then they go on to define that every 7 days. So out of 25 deposits that they looked at, 5 of them were deposited between 11 and 29 days later. We are already in the process of putting procedures in place, so we know that that isn't going to be an issue. One of the issues that we have is if a check has a date, we'll just say a check has a date of December 1st, but the district doesn't receive it until December 17th, and we deposit on December 19th. Well, the auditor looks at that and says, well, you've had it for 19 days.
Right.
So one of the things we're doing to correct that is we're actually date stamping the check so that we have an actual way of saying, okay, this is the date we received it, this is the date we deposited. So there are some corrective actions that are already in place. 2 of 10 student activity deposits did not document the event date. So again, it's something that we're working on with the schools at the junior high and at the high school, saying, all right, you need to make sure you know what date this event took place so that we can track that deposit, make sure it was made in a timely manner. So those are the corrective actions for number 3. If you turn the page, Appendix A, page 2 of 5, bullet number 6. For one of 25 expenditures reviewed, the purchase order was prepared after the invoice was received. And as a couple of board members that are on the dais today know, we do not do after-the-fact purchase orders. This is just going to the fact of why we put these policies and procedures into place as to why you need to have that purchase order in place prior to actually making the purchase, because there is the actual finding. So they looked at 25 and they found one.
Yeah.
Turning the page again to page 4 of 5. Bullet points number 25 and 26. Bullet point 25 is for 2 of 4 athletic events reviewed, the district did not use pre-numbered tickets. That is a requirement according to the USFR that when we have an event that we have an admission to, we have to reconcile our admissions to pre-numbered tickets. And those pre-numbered tickets need to have a starting number and an ending number placed on their deposit slip so that it can be reconciled to. Again, something that we are working towards. Number 26 is for the deposit of concession sales. Right now, we have not a really good way of reconciling our cash for concessions. But this is something that we know. This is something we told the auditor we knew we didn't have a very good process in place, but we are working to put something better in place so that this is no longer a finding. And then on number 27, 2 of 10 student activity deposits reviewed did not include a report that reconciled sales to cash. So again, an activity that took place that didn't have a way to properly say, we had this many people, we should have this much money. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to give you the high-level overview. Items that we know that we had issues with and that we are in the process of correcting. So that is that. Unless you have any questions.
Right.
Just trust that you'll stick to that and make that happen.
Mr. Larson, you know me by now.
I know. I know, but that's just, a
Schubert,
mess waiting to happen.
You weren't going to refer to page 346, the Shoal Unified School District, or maybe they'll refer to that on their own, the colored pie chart with all the graphs?
Yeah.
That is the next agenda item.
Well, thank you, because that's good information.
Okay, so no action required on item 5.1. So item 5.2, review of Arizona School District spending fiscal year 2015. We have a chart in front of us, if you have your.
Will that
All right,
be
so
will that be on the community?
yes, the community will be
it was
able to
given.
view this. So I've got this already set up, and as soon as I go ahead and click it up on the screen, we'll go ahead and get it going. There you go.
All right.
So every year, the State Auditor General's Office puts out a spending report for every school district in the state. First thing I wanted to put your attention to was spending by operational area. Governor Ducey's goal is to have instructional dollars at 60% of your budget, okay? When you look at the pie chart, you'll see that right now, for our last school year, we were at 56.2, and our peers were at a 51.4% average. We're looking pretty good at that, but you look at that and you say, well, we're not good because we're not at the 60%. If you add in student support and instructional support, which are included into that 60% number, so you are adding 10.8%, so that puts us at 67% of our dollars are actually spent in the classrooms. We are only spending 10% on administration, 12.3% on plant, 5.2% in food service, 5.5% transportation. So we're looking really good at that. And if you didn't want to take my word for it, down below there is the efficiency measures. Our administrative cost is a $690 per pupil, which is ranked low versus our peers in the state average. The state average for administrative cost per pupil is $798, and the state average is $780. So we are well below that state average in our administrative spending. If you look at our plant operations, our cost per square foot is $4.47, which is a very low number.
Very low.
If you look at our peer average, they're at 5.52, and the state average is $6.09. Our square footage per student We have 189 square feet per student, which is comparable with the state comparable with our peers, but well above the state average. Food service, this is the only area where we have an efficiency measure that is concerning, but really not that much. Our cost per meal is $3.09. The peer average is $2.80, and the state average is just a penny below that. And as you can see, our transportation cost per mile and our cost per rider are comparable with both the peer and state averages. I'm going to go straight across there and talk about the financial stress assessment for the district. The first line, change in number of district students, which is our ADM, we are holding steady. We're not a declining district. We're not an increasing district. We're a steady district. Are we exceeding our operating and capital budgets? No, we are not overspending any of our budgets. Do we have a spending increase due to re-election results? That is red because it has been voted rejected. Operating reserve percentage, 4% max. This is the carryover that we are allowed every year that is allowed up to 4% of our M&O and capital budgets. We are currently at 1%, but a slight increase. So that's why that is also red. Years of capital reserve, capital reserve funds that are held. We are less than a year in capital. That's why that is red. And our current financial and internal controls. So how are we handling our money and how are we reporting our money? That's a nice green one where we're compliant. Now, being the finance guy, I really don't pay much attention to the top two charts on the other side of that, but I thought it is worth talking about. The chart right above the financial stress assessment is our students who meet state standards. So this is a direct correlation to our teachers. For math, our district is above the peer group, but yet we are below the statewide average. So if you take our peer group, and at the top of this page, there's actually a number that'll tell you exactly who's in our peer group. So you just have to go in and to the Auditor General site and find out who's in those different peer groups. Our English and language arts, we are well ahead of our peer groups and slightly below the state average. And in our sciences, we blow everything away. Our district is so much higher than our peer groups and the statewide average. It's just something for our teachers to be commended on, especially in the sciences areas.
How do we get math better?
Bring them to my office.
No, I'm taking accounting courses.
We'll do that. We have
help.
200. We'll have them ready for next week.
Yeah, we bring Greg to the math classroom. That's how we do it.
We always know this in education. It all happens in the classroom.
That's right.
And I think with us putting 67% of our dollars into the classroom, that really shows where we as a district are committed to our fundings.
And our kids.
Another couple pieces I just wanted to hit on. Our attendance rate at our schools, we are right there with the peer and the state averages at 92%. And this is the one that I have to give props to Mr. Adams on. And Mr. Adams knows I probably hate doing that as much as anybody here. But the graduation rate at the high school is at 84%, in which our peer average is only 80% and the statewide average is 76%. So giving props where they're due, Mr. Adams, fantastic job with that.
Can I say something about that? I'm willing to give Mr. Adams the props he deserves, but you know, if we don't have our grade school teachers doing their jobs and our junior high teachers doing their job in that preparation up to that point, I mean, we certainly can't not include them in that, even though they're not the one that's there when they graduate. So that's really important that we acknowledge them too.
Ms. Lazardi, could I make a comment too?
Absolutely.
We are a very aggressive district in alternative education. And I'm just going to state it like this. We appreciate that grad rate and we do work hard to keep it high. But it's those alternative school and those approaches to alternative education who kids who really need it. That's why that rate's up there. That 4% represents a lot of kids graduated from school that would not have graduated had we not had two different, a lot of people don't realize that Show Low School District has Show Low High School, an alternative school that's a seat time alternative school, and an alternative school that's its own STDS number, online high school. And those help these kids graduate.
Right.
Thank you.
Says a lot for Show Low Unified School District, and I have to echo Greg's sentiments there, and given the thing that goes right along with that is that attendance rate. Kids aren't in school, they don't graduate, and so,
Let's work on math.
yeah. We get that up, then that number stays up, and that helps.
Can I tell you
lot of those
that
other
our
digits.
Friday schedule kills that attendance rate?
I'll
So
bet it
I
does.
can tell you right now, because Mr. Marchant punches these numbers all the time, that if we took Friday out of our district, I'm not saying we should, I'm just telling, if you took those numbers and you looked at it without Friday, Monday through Thursday, I'm not saying anything here, I'm just saying. if
We
you
should
look at
probably
that
stay on
data
task,
straight
Mr.
across, I'm not saying anything
Well, did
about
we,
the schedule, I'm saying it is higher, it's significant higher.
was it that way when we had the half day on Thursday?
Exactly
It
the
was
same
still
way.
the same. So moving Thursday to Friday didn't affect that at all?
Mr. Marchant, if you agree, nod your head. If you disagree, shake your head, okay? He knows those numbers.
Okay.
We
I was
study it.
curious. That's good to know.
Mr. Marchant
15?
said it's about 15% difference on those
1.5,
days.
Yeah.
did you say?
15.
Wow.
Yeah, I could have guessed that. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to point out on your chart there? I'd
It's
like
not
to,
just the high school, that's this school district.
Right. Pam, you were going to say something.
yeah, I
There
was
is
going to
something.
point out a couple other things. Poverty rate, significantly lower than our peer average, even though it's a little bit higher than the state average. Obviously, we're a Title I district, and that's why.
When you
it's-
look at the poverty rate, one of the things you have to realize that the group of schools that are within our peer district, a lot of them are reservation schools.
Right.
So you're going to have some differentiation in the poverty rates.
Right, exactly. Everything else is pretty, right on, yeah. I had taken a look at this, I appreciate it, you had emailed this to us, and I had printed it and taken a look at it.
I was going to say, I'll bring that up.
Yeah,
I just want to say that I think this very clearly shows the skill in which we have both, I think, before you came, but since you've joined the district, in taking care of our monies.
absolutely.
And using them to work to the very cent as well as we can to be efficient with those dollars and cents. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really appreciative. This shows it really well.
What few dollars we have, we manage them well.
Yeah, and I think it's very obvious when you look at peer average and state average that we're working hard to do that and excelling. So,
Pretty blatantly average as well as when you look at the teacher salary. We have to get that up. So our community out there that's watching, please look at that average teacher salary and know that when we get these dollars from 123, so vote, go out and vote. I know you.
yeah,
Say, research Proposition 123.
I am not saying yay or nay, I'm saying go out and vote, please, go out and vote. But when we get those monies, hopefully, that it's just a drop in the bucket as to how much we need to bring up this average teacher salary.
Everybody else will go up with us.
We're still in a community,
Every other district will go up.
they're gonna go up, and we're still in a community that we're gonna need to do some additional something to generate funds, to bring us up, to meet our peers and to meet the state average.
And going back to when we're talking about salaries and going against our peers, you get one thing you have to realize when we're trying to compare this to our peers, like I said with the poverty rate, a lot of these schools are reservation schools.
And they get,
extra funding. They get impact
Right,
aid that
right.
this district does not get.
we don't get, they get impact,
They get impact aid.
and also, what's that?
There's
Bureau
one
of-
district, and I don't think it is a peer district that gets desegregation money.
But then, don't they also get,
They also get impact aid.
we still have desegregation.
and Bureau of
There are
Land Management money
27
too?
districts in the state that get desegregation money.
Yeah,
A big big chunk of that goes to Tucson Unified.
Wow.
And isn't there Bureau of Land Management money that they get too, or is that different?
No, there's, yeah, they don't get any of that.
No.
You're talking forest fee money? No, because they're all reservation.
Or in reservation?
So they get impact aid.
It's in there, okay.
They
Schubert,
also get a lot of school improvement funding from the federal government.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking of. That's the
Yeah.
what I
What was that
that's the name.
School improvement grants called SIG.
SIG, yeah. That's the money I was
Millions
thinking
of
of. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I knew there was another term that I was not coming up in my head. I appreciate that. Mr. Schubert, I appreciate the time spent putting that together. Thank you very much. All right. The consent agenda.
So you have the consent agenda before you, before your approvals tonight.
I'll motion that we approve the consent agenda as listed there.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We've got to be at
Where's our,
6 point something.
That's it.
that's it? We don't have adjourn on there, so we're looking for adjourn. I'll motion that we adjourn if that's where we're at.
I second the motion.
Well, prior to doing that, I have a motion and a second to adjourn, but prior to doing that, I want to make sure I wish our community a happy St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. Since I am Scotch-Irish, I have an obligation to do that. And that everyone has a safe, if they're traveling, safe travels, and everyone out there who's enjoying their spring break, that they have a safe spring break. So with a motion and a second to adjourn, do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone out there for watching.
What is?